Well, hello again, Rush fans, songwriters, musicologists, and audio nerds. This is an overdue addendum to my Limelight deep dive from last year. At 3108 of that video, you'll find a section where I created a number of alternate versions of the song's parts that the band may or may not have considered while writing it, with one exception. At 3206, I used a piece of Rush's own early draft of the song, which has a different intro than the one we're used to. What's the deal with that recording? Where did it come from? How is it different from the final version? And what does it tell us about Rush and how they wrote Limelight? During Rush's first decade as a recording band, they did a short tour before going into the studio. This guaranteed proficiency with the new material and road tested the new songs in front of live crowds. The band did not make home studio demos at this time, as the tech wasn't really available, so these pre-album tours are the only track record of early versions of Rush material from this era. The recording of the early version of Limelight was made on September 30th, 1980 at the Allentown Fairgrounds in Pennsylvania during the pre-Moving Pictures tour, which consisted of 16 dates in the US. It was going to be the final show of the tour, but a cancellation caused a makeup date to be added later. Frustratingly, this one recording seems to be the only early version of Limelight that has survived into the internet era. All recordings that I unearthed in my research are from the same date, September 30th. I used waveform analysis to compare them, especially Getty's spoken intro, and even though some are faster, slower, higher or lower res than the recording on the Power Windows demo CD, which is downloadable from cygnusx1.net, link below, it remains a fact that we only have one performance of Limelight's first draft to study. This means that we do not know if Rush was workshopping the song from the start of the tour or playing the same arrangement every night. What we can surmise is that, what with this being the penultimate show of the tour, the version we have is either the demo's final iteration or a very well practiced execution of their best idea of the time. So let's break it down. Viewers are expected to have watched my full video on Limelight because I will not be explaining the final recorded version here. As discussed, the original intro goes on for 8 bars, i.e. 4 reps, instead of the final's 3 reps over 6 bars. Alex plays every B5 as staccato, while Neil plays just a 2 and 4 in a beat reminiscent of Topperhedron of the Clash. As a songwriter, I wonder if Alex also tried this intro all legato before arriving at the sweet spot that is the alternating staccato-legato version of the final form. The keyboards come in blaring over the 5th bar and go away when the verse begins. This is called a keyboard pad. In the final mix, it's been replaced with keyboard stabs. Wait, what? Limelight has keyboards? Yes, albeit minimal, and I completely skipped them in my deep dive, so let's do a quick sidebar. Here's a waveform of the isolated keyboards over the length of the tune. They're used to add a little kick to the intro, to smooth the transition to the chorus, and for thickening atmosphere during the long guitar solo.
Oneself in time, living in the limelight.
So yes, that's right. The Limelight music video was holding out on us, only showing keyboards being played during the final solo. For the riff, Neil already had his 7/4 parts worked out in terms of bass and snare placements, but note he busted up the Salisbury section with pickup and ghost notes. Idea, but clearly unnecessary. The only thing different about the first 2 verses is Getty's vocal phrasing. The melody and arrangement are locked in, but Getty is holding notes that would later become staccato, especially in the last bar of 4/4 that ends each one. Getty also mixes it up in the chorus in 2 small ways. For being a legendarily high-pitched singer, Geddes only used falsetto once in the 2009 song Bravest Face on Snakes and Arrows for exactly 1 word.
I like that show where they solve all the murders and heroic point of view.
Well, it turns out he tried to use this unusual vocal trick 29 years earlier, because check out how he hits the word seam in this early version. My biggest surprise in comparing the Limelights happens right after the chorus. There is no riff number 5. I've long maintained this moment is a $1 million arrangement flourish, and that saves the song from being tiring or freshening your ear and doing yeoman's work for the tune's repeatability. You can tell the band knew they needed something different in the space, but its first draft really wasn't different enough. The bass and guitar are playing riff 1 again, and only the drums mix it up. In the final version, every instrument plays something new here. A lot of high-fiving that night at the studio. Verses 3 and 4 are as recorded, except for some interesting performance hiccups. I've seen this described as Geddy doubling himself, but as music fans of a certain era know, this is flange from cassette playback distortion, a common thing back in the day, especially if you were a bootlegger. Whatever the age-old source of this live recording, it's been copied cassette to cassette for many generations and then cleaned up with modern digital tools, although whether the person really knew how to use them is another conversation. Note how Geddy goes slightly off mic at long awaited. Check out the drums here at Gilded Cage. At first I thought Neil had rushed it, but yet the band came in perfectly together a fraction of a second later. So then I realized it's a hitch in the original recording, a skip in the tape. If Neil really had dropped this amount of time, roughly a 16th note, it would have been impossible for the band to come in so perfectly just a beat later. Alex's original solo is very different, to say the least. He's shredding his angst, starting in 4th gear and leaving himself precious little room to escalate. Besides Alex rewriting this from scratch, the other big change is in the drums. In the final, Neil plays a 12/8 feel at first, before playing 3/4 with a snare hit on 3, and eventually going 4/4 over 3/4. Here in the first draft though, he's in 3/4 from jump, spending twice as long there and flattening out the crescendo arc. I talked about the rhythmic quagmire that is the end of the solo in the long video, but to summarize, Neil has to transition from 12 beats per rep to 9 beats per rep to a 21 beat chorus and make it sound natural and smooth. He eventually lands on the ingenious idea of doing 4 bars of fills but starting them on the 4th bar of the pattern, so that when he starts playing 4/4 on the 4th bar of the next rep, it doesn't feel off, and thus he sneaks a path through the asymmetry that lets him hit a big kick crash on the 1 of the chorus. Here, however, his original solution is rockier. In this chart, snare hits have a pink accent mark to help you follow. He starts the 4/4 beat in the middle of the 4-bar pattern, playing 3 bars of 4 and then an adjustment bar of 3/4 flying brick style before the 4/4 groove returns. Then he shifts to a 3/4 beat with snare hits on the 1 and 2, leading into the penultimate chorus, which is played as 4/4 until the 7th bar, which he plays as 3/4 with the snares on 2 and 3. Like this approach doesn't work, but what with its consistent shifting around, it lacks the smooth flow of Neil's later iteration, matching its drive but not its elegance. These adjustments and refinements may seem minor, but I'm convinced they're the key to making a quirky, complicated prog rock single into one of the most popular FM radio staples of all time. As for the outros, they're identical down to the final bass arpeggio. I would call this first draft about 90% there. Many bands would take satisfaction in how much this demo accomplishes, but leave it to the boys from Toronto to keep tweaking until perfection is attained. Well, that's it for now, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. I felt it was necessary to get this last missing piece of Limelight out there for everyone. Please like and subscribe, rate, leave a comment. I have recently broken up the big video into a bunch of 1 to 3 minute long segments. Those are, I don't know, shorts for the algo, I guess, but 45 minutes is a long time to spend discussing one song. I recognize that. It's a lot to take in. And yeah, I appreciate your attention, and all rush is good rush. Later.